party people. Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, we are playing Adira Slattery's Bad Moon, a two-player role-playing game in which one of the players is the moon. And sure enough, I am so excited because my guest this week is the moon. You know the moon from the night sky, where it orbits the Earth at a distance of 238,900 miles and completes a lunar cycle once every 28 days or so. You may also know her from her work controlling all of the Earth's tides, as well as her appearances in music, such as the song That's Amore, and her background work in films such as E.T., Apollo 13, and Weekend at Bernie's 2. You can learn more about the moon by visiting your local library or checking the show notes for more information. As a brief technical note, we are also joined in this episode by the game's designer, Adira Slattery, who walks us through some of the game's mechanics and joins us for a debrief after the game session itself. You can find Adira on Twitter at Adira Slattery, and you can find more information about her work, including Bad Moon, in the show notes or at adira.itch.io. Now, just on a content note before we dive in, this episode does get very heavy and emotional. It does deal in themes of a frayed relationship and does culminate in a loud, aggressive, verbal, emotional outburst. Just as a heads up, listener discretion is advised on that front. And with all that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. My guest this week is the moon. Moon, thank you so much for coming on Party of One. I'm excited to have you on the show. This is gonna be a really special recording, I can already tell. So, real quick, at the top of the show, it feels a little silly saying this because I'm pretty sure everyone is at least a little familiar with your work, but why don't you take a moment and let the lovely listeners at home know about all of the stuff you've got going on that you might want them to know about? Yeah, that checks out. I feel like that's pretty much the easiest way to see it. I feel like everyone, has a pretty good handle on it, so I think a quick introduction is probably the best way to go. Also joining us for this week as a special guest observer is Adira Slattery. Adira, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello.
So, real quick, why don't you take some time to introduce what you've got going on, as well as the game that we're playing this week?
Oh, yeah. I'm Adira Slattery. I'm Adira Slattery everywhere on the internet. I make games at adira.itch.io, and I got a Twitter at Adira Slattery. I also recently purchased adiraslattery.com.
That's branding. That's that ace level branding. You gotta.
Yeah. I do games. The game that Jeff and the Moon will be playing today is called Bad Moon. It's a emotional game about communication and dealing with anger.
Yeah, it's a game about being wronged, and the moon has pissed us off, and it's time to stop letting her get away with it.
Yeah.
So, real quick, just to kind of like emotionally set the stakes on the table. This is both kind of level setting for the moon as well as for the listeners at home. This is going to be me getting very, very angry. I'm going to be talking through some serious emotions. I'm going to get very angry. I'm going to get very aggressive. With the moon, we're all kind of on the same page. We've all read the game. We've all got a handle on the content, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there so that no one thinks there's any beef between the moon and I. Moon, you're cool with that? There you go. There you have it. Mm-hmm. So, talk to me about. Tell me what the let's you and I, Adira, because I know that there's some like reflective bits at the start of the game that I think are naturally suited to having sort of a neutral party sort of react to. Why don't you and I go through the early parts of the game, and then Moon will hop in with you when it's time to really get into the meat of the story. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds like it's all right with the Moon, so it's all right with me.
All right, perfect. So walk us through the start of the game. Walk us through the sort of introspective early parts of the game.
All right, so the moon is big. The moon glows. We are below the moon, and she is up high. The moon has risen in the sky, and as we've already know, the moon has pissed you off, and it's time to stop letting her get away with it. So Jeff, you've talked about a problem. There is some problem in your life. It might be big, it might be small, it might be petty. You're going to determine that problem. But first, you want to make sure you get into every detail. Think about how the problem has rippled throughout your life. Who has it touched? What has it made harder? What has it made impossible or even destroyed utterly? Have a holistic view of this problem. This problem has seeped into your life. This problem dominates your waking moments. Sometimes it feels foolish that this problem is so large, but there is no denying it. You can't escape this problem, and it nearly consumes you. You can still breathe, though. Still stay above the choppy waters of the problem as it envelops you. This problem. Oh, man, this problem. So you've got one in your head, right?
I do. And my problem is that I feel like I put a lot of work into things, and at times I feel disconnected from the results of that work, or I feel like it feels almost egotistical to say that I feel unappreciated sometimes, but there are definitely times where I feel like I put a lot of energy into things, and it feels like there are definitely days where I don't feel like I get that energy back.
Yeah.
And there are days when it feels like I am walking in the mud and everyone is sort of running. Everyone is running on a track,
Jeff,
my track is just muddy.
You don't need to explain it too much to me quite yet. Just
okay,
think about
fine.
it in your head. It sounds like you've got a really good, complete sort of picture of that problem. Yeah, and fundamentally, a thing that really sucks is that the moon has caused this problem.
Sure.
Yeah, like she's caused it. Like you need to think as well about how the moon has led you to this desperate state. Like, what has she said? Why does she deny her part in this? Like, can you talk to me a little bit about how you've tried to reason with the moon before? Yeah, and when people are playing this game at home, they might want to write it down, but you can explain it to a friend. Jeff, you're now my friend.
All right, we're friends. I would for sure call us friends.
That's awesome. That makes me happy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Makes me happy too.
Yeah, if you don't have a friend handy, you can always become friends with a tree or your pet. You're probably already friends with your pet, unless you have a contentious relationship. But can you explain to me why you have no choice left? Explain why you feel the only recourse left to you is getting so angry and screaming at the moon, like in her own home. Can you explain what you cannot explain? And I just hope it'll be enough. Maybe this is enough validation. I hope maybe you'll finally be able to get to feel permission to feel what you feel.
I hope so. I have tried with every podcast, every game, all of the work that I have put in. I have tried to, but for a moment, catch, the watchful giving eyes of the moon and try to have that beautiful gaze set upon me and truly feel like I've won, not even so much, I wouldn't say the heart of the moon or the respect of the moon, but just the eyes of the moon, right? I just want to feel like I am seen by the moon, right? And it feels like, every time I raise this work to the heavens and I say, moon, look at this, hear this podcast that I have made, read this game that I have written. The moon has an excuse, right? The moon has said, well, I'm busy. I don't do podcasts. It's not my scene. I'll read this later. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun. And I think that's really great. Or, oh, it's cool. No, I dig it. It's really cool, and then months later they will react as if they've never listened. Or there was the time when I said to the moon, hey, I did this. I think you dig it. And they go, oh, I've never listened to your show before. And it's like, that stings, right? Like that's a stinging comment.
Yeah, that's really painful. And it's like personal too, because it's obvious that this matters to you. And it seems like the moon is sort of stringing you along. Yeah.
And it's, and I think it's also that like, I see the gaze that the moon gives to other people, right? I see the energy that the moon brings to, well, I guess tides is really primarily is where I see the moon putting in a lot of energy. but I see it and I want it and I envy it, and that it turns back around on myself because I don't want to feel
Yeah.
that way, right? I don't want that envy. I don't want that I don't want that distrust. I don't want that resentment. I just, it's like you said, these are things that I care about, and I, for some reason, cannot get the moon to give me the time of day. Time of night.
Yeah. So, what have you tried already?
I have tried everything as small as, making episodes that I think the moon would enjoy, stories about space travel and about exploration and about sea adventures. I figured with all the work the moon does with the ocean, any of those things might have been interesting. I tried to make things that I thought the moon would be interested in, and that didn't seem to be enough. Then I tried, saying to the moon and casually putting these things in front of the moon and saying, hey, I think you might dig this. Like, I was really happy with it, and know this is kind of a thing that you like, and that didn't work. And there was that time that I tried sort of say anythinging. You holding the boombox, I have the jacket, and I just sort of played it at the night sky, and sure enough, it was a gray, cloudy night, and the moon was nowhere to be found. And it feels like no matter how overt, no matter how subtle, no matter how direct, no matter how easygoing, how invested, no matter how, targeted, no matter how casual, it just feels like it washes over the moon like the sun's rays during an eclipse. It feels like I am not but a rogue bit of sunbeam bouncing off of its surface.
That's really rough. Why do you think she agreed to come on today?
I don't know. I don't know. I have questioned that on some level because it felt so at odds with how reluctant she was to talk about this. I mean, and it felt, but at the same time, I was also kind of touched. If perhaps this was the gesture that would change things. I don't know. All I know is that she read, she read the pitch of this game and said, I'm willing to go through this.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you love the moon. Yeah. Do you want to talk to me about some of the times you've had together? Like, how the moon has made you feel, how the moon has picked you up when you've fallen. Like, I mean, the moon, how she hasn't always been perfect, but she's always been the moon. She's always been her. Like, how does her laughter brighten whenever you're together? How her breath mingles with yours, how she feels under your touch. Like, how you both been so nervous together sometimes. Like, can you tell me a bit about that? I know it's like tough sometimes to try and be honest about like struggles and stuff, especially with like an audience of all sorts of different people on a podcast or whatever. But like, do you think you could really go through with this? Like, do you think that it's really your only option left? How will this affect your relationship? Like, how will it hurt? The moon, obviously, she means so much to you. Can you really yell at someone you love?
I've been really like nervous about that, right? Like but I also feel like, I mean, like I've always honestly been a night person. I've loved my entire life. As long as I was allowed to be out at night, I've loved just walking under the light of the moon and just, especially like, right, there's that moment where even in the heat of summer, it just gets that little bit of chill, like whether it's 2 a.m. in the middle of summer or 6:30 at night in the middle of winter. Like there's that moment where the daytime sun, the warmth of the sun, it just starts to fade, and you feel that first chill in the air. You feel that first breath of the moon, and it feels like it's precious, and it there's that moment where I've always lived in the city, or if I haven't lived in the city, I've lived close enough to a city where stars have never been particularly present, but the
Oh,
moon.
so like she's it.
Yeah, like the moon
Wow.
is in the sky. There's blinking of planes and there's skyscrapers, but the moon has been is that when I look up, I see the moon. I see her. She is there. When I am walking the city at night, it is her and I alone. And I've treasured that time together. I've treasured having that traveling companion, but it just feels like there's this wedge. It feels like there is this. It feels like I have to say this, and I have to make it explicit, and I have to make it. I have to make it explicit, and I have to make it loud, because she, no matter how much time we have spent together, she will always be so distant. I mean, distant, literally 238,900 miles distant. And if I'm not loud, if I'm not fierce, if I am not, powerful, then I don't know if she will truly hear. I think she might hear the words that I say, but I don't know if she will hear the meaning behind them if I don't give them the full force of my lungs and the full force of how I feel about this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still a tough place to be in.
It is, for sure, and I hope my greatest fear is that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to state my piece, and I'm going to do what I feel I have to do and put my foot down and say, no, you need to hear me, this matters to me, and that doing that is going to be the thing that breaks our friendship and our partnership, because I don't want that, but at the same time, our partnership can't exist if I don't do that. If I let this thing eat me away, it will consume me and destroy me, and so I have to, just this once, do this for me.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems like it's night. The moon, she's up in the sky. She's gotten some time to settle. Because, I don't think you're trying to ambush her, Jeff. This is forceful, but it's considered conversation. You're going to basically do all the talking. But just remember, consider not only your objective here, but, your self-respect, Jeff. You're doing this for you. You need her to understand. She's got to understand. It's so obvious you can't go on anymore like this. You've talked to me about how lovely things were with the moon. And you need to talk. You need to somehow get back there. But it's obvious that she just hasn't listened. As much as I hate to say it, all you have left is screaming. All you have left is to violently pour everything out of you into the night sky, up into the sky, up to her. So,
it's true.
Yeah, breathe for a moment, Jeff. Just center yourself. Do you know about circular breathing or triangular breathing?
I do not.
Yeah, so try breathing in through your mouth for a moment, holding it, and then breathing out through your nose. Yeah. Just while you do that, remember what the moon has done to you. Remember how she has not answered you. How she's not even apologized. The moon, she's just up there staring back at you, waiting. But it's okay. You should take the time for yourself. It's okay to feel the things that you feel. It's okay if you need to rethink anything. And I want you to know, I believe you can do this, though. You know that she will see how out of the ordinary this is. This has got to give her pause. The moon, she's got to notice the problem. she can't keep ignoring you with this. All right, so thankfully she's already here. Because it's kind of cold where I am right now, so heading outside with her is a bit rough. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but like, because it's no use yelling at someone who isn't there. Like, you need to get
Right,
your
of
words
course.
across, and at a certain point, this is basically all about just showing your pain. So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it's kind of time for you to begin, Jeff. Like, tell the moon how
Yep.
much she means to you. Like, remember and tell her how she has caused these problems. Implore her about why she's doing this. Voice to her how disappointed you are, how tired you are. It's like, why couldn't you just listen earlier? Why wouldn't she apologize? You have to make a scene, Jeff. This is maybe a little, but why do you love her still? Like, why? Why?
All right. Here we go. Moon, I hope you're settled in. I hope that you have had some time to think, to sit and kind of get settled. I want to make sure you are comfortable, but there are some things that I need to say and I need you to hear them. I need you to hear them right now because I don't know if you know how I feel just yet. I don't know if you realize this, but I work really hard on the things that I make, and I do them because I enjoy making them, but I also do them because I enjoy people enjoying them, and Moon, I want you to enjoy and to take the time and I want you to see me. The truth is, it's not about the stuff that I make. It's about seeing me and seeing the stuff that I'm passionate about. It is about, I care about what you think, and I want you to care about what I think. And when you brush me off, and when you don't give me that time of day, and you act like what are the things that I do, the projects that I put my real time and real energy into, Moon, it feels like you are brushing me off, and like I am not being seen, and that is not fair to me. I'll say it. That is not fair to me, the Moon. That is not a fair thing to put me through. I have shared with you, I have talked with you about the process that I make these things, the amount of work that I put in to make this work seamless. I've shown it to you. I have talked to you about as a creator. I have talked to you as the person who makes things. I am proud of these things. I stand by the stuff that I make, the podcasts, the games, all of it. I stand by it, and but the part of the reason that I do it is so that you will listen. And frankly, I do not feel that you have listened to me, the Moon. I want you to... I want you to see me as someone creative and as someone who makes things that have value and has someone and sometimes it feels like when we are together, I am just a face among billions, and that stings. It stings. It makes me feel unappreciated, Moon, and I want you. I want to feel your appreciation like I see you express it for so many other things across the world. I want this. And I don't know why it feels like it is so much effort for you to give me this. I don't know why that is. Why is that, Moon? Why is it that I feel like I have to put this work in? Why is this always this nagging voice in the back of my head, Moon? Why is this is always what I have to go through? Why do I put myself through this? Why have I been offering myself to you, Moon, for so long? Why, Moon? Moon! Answer me right now, Moon! Moon! Moon!
I know she'll reply eventually. She has to.
Okay. All right, then. I understand. That is how you feel, and I can't change that. Well, I will remember this, and I can't say that I like it, but I will remember it. And damned if I don't carry it with me. But I also don't think that's a bad thing. All right. And with that, I think that is game.
Yeah.
Well, Moon, thank you for coming on and playing with me. I think that you, Adira, and I need a little bit of decompression time because that got a little bit heavy. But I think having a good collective debrief will be good. I feel, God damn, that game is very good. It's very, very good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I love it. I love it a whole lot is the thing. Cause it's the way that, it's the way that I mean, the writing in it is so beautiful. Like, I will say a lot of what is in the episode is the writing of the game, and it is just beautifully written and specific. It takes, and the way that it takes you on this journey that I'll be honest, as I was hearing you read it and I was reading it for myself, I wasn't even sure I wanted to go on. There were so many moments where I was like, if I could get out of this, I would. But I think, the game, not in a bad way, if that makes sense. Like, it was this feeling of it reminds me of like a great horror movie in a certain way of like knowing that I don't want to open that door, but knowing that door is going to get opened. There's that feeling of I know I'm going to yell and scream and hurt myself and hurt the moon, which I care about very deeply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It hurt. It genuinely hurt and like exhausted me, but in a way that was that. Also, there was also a real catharsis in the way that it tells you to describe this problem and the way that it tells you to like think it through and really like own it and also to assign it to someone. And Moon, I want to genuinely say like thank you for allowing me to go through that, and I genuinely hope
thank you, Moon.
And I genuinely hope there are no like hard feelings. I hope that you are doing okay. For sure. That's got to feel pretty good to hear that about your game.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear about my game. I didn't write this game specifically about your situation with the moon, Jeff. Where this game sort of started to come out of was I love game jams. And had an idea for a game, and I was like, yeah, that fits this game jam. And
some of my best and my favorite games that I've written have come out of that exact impulse.
The game is very much about like, and relies on some of the things that I have learned in DBT therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, if I said that acronym right. the thing you're saying about not wanting to go through with it, I'm really glad that you felt that.
Why so?
Because I don't want people to yell at people they love.
No, that was exactly what it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it's funny because it's funny that you mentioned that this sort of came from concepts pulled from therapy, because there was a lot of, like, I think that's the impulse that was keeping me, that was like giving me that feeling of like, oh, but like that feeling of I don't know how to describe dread, I guess is the only way to describe it, is like talking a lot in therapy about like, yes, it's valid that you feel that way, but you know, comfortably communicating that and like having those healthy lines of communication is so important, that like it really was this moment of like I'm hearing this and I'm going through this experience and I'm in the headspace of a character for whom this is the only option, who is me. And I will admit I drew from a lot of very real feelings, feelings that I've gone through. I wanted to make this go real. But like there was also this feeling of like this isn't how this goes down, right? There's this feeling of like, this is not how the me that is in this moment. There's also the me that is kind of a step back and going like, that's not right. Like that's not the way that it should be experienced, right? Like that's, and it made it this beautiful, painful experience that was very so
Thank
good.
Are you gonna be able to get a hug after this, Jeff? Good.
Yes, I'm gonna go hug my wife and have my cat sit on my chest. There was some and the one thing that I think is very kind of is powerful about this game as a concept, something, and this is another personal experience thing that is tied into my relationship, like my emotional like growth and self-care journey, is there's this beautiful idea in the game of taking this thing, right, this very personal thing that you feel, and the way that the game really pulls you to pull from something real for that, something that is in your life that you feel, and you feel it seeping into every aspect, and then ascribing it to a cosmic being that has stretched, that is millions of years old, that floats over all of us at all times. Real, we a being that is exactly real and is sitting in front of us. Yeah. Which, by the way, Moon, thank you for, you know, the Moon and I had a conversation before this where we talked about probably like where this might go, and I gotta say she was an absolute trooper about being cool with like being that person, but like the idea that you put this on like this unreachable, unimpactable figure, and then you just put those feelings out there and you unload, and in a certain way you feel that feeling of, oh, this isn't right, it's not good, but there's still that sense of catharsis. This is something that I have done in the past with my very real evil twin, James Stormer, who has taken my place on convention panels and runs a side podcast to my Eggnog podcast. Very real evil twin. But I have there have been times where I have sort of said that James is the embodiment of, honestly, a lot of the feelings that I put onto the Moon today. Those feelings of self-doubt, those feelings of lacking confidence, of feeling unappreciated. And I've put them onto James so that I can let those feelings out in a way that is not at someone, right? That is not, it is creating that outlet for those feelings to be expressed in the way that you need them to be expressed, but also letting you kind of take that step back and go, is this really how it should be expressed? You know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful game. Well, thank you for writing it. Really is the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
And thank you for joining me on the show and walking it through and getting to experience this moment between the moon and I.
Yeah, I'm so happy that all three of us are here together.
I am too. Yeah. So, real quick, where would you, Adira, where can people find you and your work online, including Bad Moon?
Oh, yeah, people can find my work at adira.itch.io. That's adira.itch.io. Itch is a great games platform, and on there you can get Bad Moon and a number of my other games. Bad Moon is, you can pay money for it. You can also get a community copy for free. There are some stuff left. So that's nice. I'm on podcasts sometimes, like this one, I guess. And
you were just on an episode. As of the time of this recording, it will have been a few weeks since it released, but you were just on an arc of One Shot that I believe was not only expertly performed but expertly edited as well.
Yeah, you edited it. Yeah.
Yes. What? Just throw my like. I was trying to be like subtle about it, and you were just like, yeah, you did it.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I did. I did. I mean, I honestly though, like, I'm gonna put this on mic so that you can hear it, and so Tracy will hear it because I know they listen to Party of One as well. But like, I loved listening to that arc. It was just cool all the way through, and like went from like funny to exciting to bittersweet and like emotion. It really just like it ran such a gamut. It was a great arc, and I'll put it in the show notes. You should go listen to the One Shot Iron Edda arc that Adira was on because it rules.
Yeah, everybody on it was amazing. Tracy is amazing. Yeah,
they're so good. They're great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They rule so hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Adira, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute blast. Moon, where can people find you and your work online? Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining me on this episode. This was a very special episode of the show. I am genuinely I'm blown away by how good it was. But for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Adira and to the Moon for joining us. That game was a really powerful, emotional experience that I will not soon forget. It's not every day that you get to yell at the Moon. Be sure to check the show notes for more information about Adira's work, about the game Bad Moon, and about the Moon itself. Then be sure to follow Adira on Twitter at Adira Slattery. The Moon is, to my knowledge, not on Twitter. But we are, and you can follow us at Party of One Pod. Then like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, Podchaser review. However you listen to podcasts, there's probably some kind of review function. And your reviews do a lot to help new listeners find the show, and they make my day just whenever I see a new review pop up. They really just brighten my whole experience. Another way you can support the show is by hanging out with us on Discord at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Talk to us about professional wrestling, the show, role-playing games, Gritty, all of the things kids want to talk about these days. You can also financially support not just the podcast, but all the games I produce, content I make elsewhere, all the community stuff that I do, by going to patreon.com/JeffStormer, coffee.com/JeffStormer, or paypal.me/JeffJStormer, because Jeff Stormer was taken. Let's see. One more thing you can do to support the show is by supporting the other podcast that I produce, All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, powered by you. Every week, my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, press coverage, or coming on the show as a guest, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.